Long ago in Greece, the great musician Orpheus could charm anything with his songs. Bears, wolves, birds, and humans would gather to listen to his sweet tunes. And even the gods were entranced by his music. Now, he loved her more than anything in the world, so he did something crazy. He marched to the gates of the underworld and began to play, with such beautiful music that Hades, the god of the dead, emerged from his throne to listen. But when he heard those dark strings and sad melodies, he started to cry. He said, "You have proven yourself, Orpheus. You may take your wife back with you." But there was a catch. As they were exiting the underworld together, he warned Orpheus, "Do not look back at her under any circumstances. If you do, Eurydice will be lost to me forever, and no music of yours will ever bring her back again." Orpheus hesitated, but he was so overjoyed to see his wife alive that he promised Hades he would not look back. Unfortunately, this is something that many of us forget about. We get so caught up in the troubles of everyday life that we do and always remember to appreciate our loved ones while we can. But death is inevitable. It doesn't matter if you're young or old, rich or poor, famous or unknown. In fact, you could say that the story of Orpheus and Eurydice is a cautionary tale that warns us about the dangers of unchecked curiosity and the importance of honoring our agreements. He was the son of Apollo and a woman named Calliope, who was a muse, a divine being that inspired mortals to create great works of art. See, Orpheus believed that there was more to life than what we can see with our eyes. He thought that there was a realm of the dead where the souls of the departed went after they died. He saw fields of gold and silver, palaces of ivory and crystal, and gardens filled with exotic plants and animals. But when they heard his music, their faces changed. He continued exploring the realm of the dead, and eventually came across the river Lethe, which was said to be the boundary between the world of the dead and the world of the living. But a place where the souls of the departed could find peace and even happiness. When the people heard about all that he had done, they hailed him as a hero. They built temples in his honor and made him a god. And so the legend of Orpheus, the man who brought music to hell, was passed down through the ages. He sat on the bank of the river and played a mournful song for those who had died and forgotten their loved ones. His music was so sad and beautiful that the spirits of the dead were moved to tears. They shed the darkness that had been clinging to them and were drawn toward the light. One by one, they crossed the river and returned to the world of the living, where they were greeted by their families and friends. They had never heard anything so beautiful and haunting, and they let him pass without another word. On the other side of the gates was a vast and desolate landscape. There was nothing but gray, barren mountains and endless fields of black sand, but as Orpheus played his music, the mountains began to glow with a soft light and the sand turned to fertile soil. Flowers bloomed in a riot of colors and trees sprouted leaves and branches. Birds sang in the trees and animals came out of hiding to listen to his music. He also saw terrifying creatures that tried to pull him into the water and drag him down to the depths of hell. But Orpheus was not afraid. He continued singing until he reached the end of the river and the gates of hell itself, and he was determined to find a way to communicate with them. To do this, he traveled to the far reaches of the known world to learn everything he could about the afterlife. He studied ancient texts, consulted with wise men, and even ventured into dangerous territory to speak with those who claimed to have seen the underworld firsthand. From the time he was born, it was clear that Orpheus was destined for greatness. He would build a raft and sail down the river Styx, which was said to be the border between the world of the living and the world of the dead. Once he reached the underworld, he would use his music to charm the creatures that guarded it and gain entry. Then he would explore the realm of the dead and try to contact the spirits of those who had passed on. Orpheus built his raft and set sail down the river. It was a long and perilous journey, but he was determined to succeed. He sang songs of love and loss, joy and sorrow, and the raft carried him further and further away from civilization. He was incredibly handsome with long flowing hair, piercing blue eyes, and a voice that could charm the birds from the trees. But it was his music that truly set him apart from everyone else. Whenever he strummed his lyre, the notes he played seemed to come from the gods themselves. People would gather from all over just to listen to him sing, and they were always moved to tears by the beauty of his melodies. But it's also a love story.
Oh.
And at its core, it's about the lengths we'll go to for the ones we care about. The fact remains that none of us are getting out of this world alive. And when our time comes, we woe and be able to take anything with us, except for maybe the memories we've made along the way. So cherish the ones you love and live each day as if it's your last. You never know when death might come knocking on your door. One day his wife Eurydice died. Even in the darkest of times, we must never give up. Hope is what gives us the strength to keep going when everything seems to be falling apart. It's what helps us pick ourselves up after we've been knocked down. And it's what allows us to believe that better days are ahead. Like Orpheus, we must be careful not to let our hope get the best of us. We need to stay grounded in reality and be prepared for whatever life throws our way. Otherwise, we may just end up making things worse the entire time. Orpheus felt Eurydice walking beside him. Every step they took, the air grew warmer and brighter. He was willing to risk everything to bring her back from the dead. But in the end, it was his doubt that caused him to fail. If he had just trusted in the deal he made with Hades, he and Eurydice would have been able to live happily ever after. Instead, his curiosity got the better of him, and he paid the ultimate price. He turned around to tell Eurydice how happy he was to see her once more. Well, first of all, it speaks to the power of art. Just think about it. What's so great about stories, music, poems, paintings, films, and other works of art is that they can make us feel things that we never thought possible. It can touch our hearts, move our souls, and change our lives forever. That's exactly what happened to those who heard Orpheus play. He was able to evoke emotion in everyone around him and every living creature because his music was so heartfelt and real. And in that instant, she vanished from his sight, slipping through his fingers like grains of sand. Lost to the world of the dead forever, she had become the property of Hades, and no amount of music or pleading would ever bring her back. Instead, he found himself alone on the hilltop with only his hollow grief. Soon, the sun shone down on them, and they were met with the sounds of birds and the sweet smell of flowers. Just ahead, they could hear the babbling of a nearby brook, and beyond that, the tall walls of the city. Home to family, friends, and everything that Eurydice and Orpheus had missed while they were gone. All was well. All was as it should be. And yet Orpheus had only one last step to take. He just needed to keep walking, stay strong, and resist the urge to look back. Why was this? Well, you see, in ancient Greek mythology, the greatest musicians were also psychopomps. That means they could help guide souls to the afterlife. Flowers sprouted from the ground, trees rustled in the wind, and even Cerberus wagged his tail to the beat. With each strum, the walls of hell grew thinner and thinner. Then suddenly, there she was, Persephone herself, standing before him in all her glory. Orpheus continued playing until her face softened, her icy exterior melted away, and tears streamed down her cheeks. She knew that he had played all that music for her, for love, and it broke her heart. If he could move the heart of Persephone, the queen of the underworld, Hades would allow Eurydice to return to the world of the living. Oh, this was a tough challenge. After all, Persephone was a stoic goddess, known for her coldness and emotional distance. She ruled the underworld alongside her father Hades with an iron fist. But Orpheus didn't hesitate. He took his lyre and walked boldly into hell. Usually this happened after someone died and the musician would lead their spirit out of this world and into the next with their enchanting music. But Orpheus wasn't trying to help some dead person. No, he wanted to turn back the hands of time itself and bring his wife back to the land of the living. This was forbidden, a violation of nature's laws. But as we said before, the gods loved his music. And even though what he was doing was unheard of, Hades couldn't bring himself to stop him. After listening to the sorrowful song for a while, he made Orpheus an offer. As soon as he began playing, the whole place seemed to tremble. Then Hades appeared behind them, wiping tears from his own eyes. They ascended through the gates of hell, up the long path leading out of the underworld, toward the world of the living. But as they reached the top of a hill overlooking the city, he couldn't help himself. So why does the story of Orpheus and the underworld matter to us today? Secondly, the myth of Orpheus reminds us of the universality of death. Finally, the story of Orpheus teaches us about the importance of hope. Orpheus' journey into the underworld was an act of desperation born out of love for his wife. The myth of Orpheus has been around for thousands of years, but its lessons are just as relevant today as they were back then. In Greek mythology, Orpheus was said to be a half-human, half-god musician. It wasn't just his music that was special, though. After years of searching, he finally put together a plan. As he sailed, he began to see strange and wonderful things. When the guards saw that it was just a mortal man approaching, they laughed and jeered at him. Orpheus had brought life to the underworld with his music. Orpheus had accomplished what he set out to do. He had shown that the world of the dead was not a place of eternal torment.